So once you get your baby in here and everything buckled, pull up around their hips to pull that extra slack out. Pull your chest clip all the way down, and then you're going to pull this to tighten. Okay. Then once you think you've got it tight enough, you're going to do the pinch test. And so we're going to pretend like this is your baby's shoulder. The pinch test is taking your fingers and going on their shoulders just like this. If you can pinch any fabric, you're still a little bit too loose, and so you'll just pull a little bit tighter, go back and check it again, okay? It's not going to get any tighter. This is as tight as it goes. But if a baby was in here, you know, you're going to go like this, and it's going to be like that. Otherwise, you're going to be able to pinch. Okay? When your finger slides right off, then you're good to go. You have it tight enough. After that, if it's not up already, you're going to push this chest clip up armpit to armpit, and that's your last step. Okay?
When do you ever need to take the insert out?
Usually Graco wants you to take out the bottom piece, and it's usually around 11 or 12 pounds.
Okay.
So 12 pounds. Yep. So this bottom piece only will come out at 12 pounds, and it's all connected. So, and then it just pulls over this. So very simple.
Are you allowed to have like blankets or anything like that on top of them after they've been
Harnessed?
installed?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's a very good question, because a lot of people will put extra layers on their baby, or, you know, put a blanket over them and then harness them. You want the least amount of layers between the harness and your baby as possible, because that's what's going to keep them still. Any extra cushion creates movement.
Okay.
So yes, once you get them in and get them harnessed and get everything tight, you can put their little blanket or something over them, so that they're still warm, especially in the cold days. And then you can pull this down too, just to kind of decrease some of that airflow. And you're more than welcome to put something over this as a cover to protect them from wind when you're outside. But whenever you get in the vehicle or inside, just make sure you pull that piece off, because it does decrease the amount of oxygen that can flow through to the baby. So you can keep this down at all times, but just if you put an extra cover, just make sure you lift that up once you're inside.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I've seen different things about the timing for how long infants can be in a carrier. What would you recommend?
So it's going to be solely dependent on the specific seat that you have. So yours goes to 35 pounds or 32 inches. So whichever one they hit first.
No, no. I meant like duration. Like until they can hold their necks up. That's what I think most people say.
So you'll want to max out any seat they have, or at least get as close to maxing it out as possible.
I meant, I'm sorry. Like, can they only be in the carrier for like 20 minutes or?
Oh, the amount of time, like in a day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
2 hours at a time.
Okay.
And then take them out for about 15 minutes or so, and then you can put it back in.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I was having trouble articulating that. I get it. No worries. Thank you.
But now that we've been talking about it, the amount of time that you'll use this seat, you'll have up until 35 pounds or 32 inches. So whichever one your baby hits first is when you'll transition out of the seat. I will say, though, most people transition out of the infant seat sooner than maxing out the weight or the height, and that's fine as long as you are getting a convertible seat and still rear facing. And the reason why they do that is because it gets hard to lug around a baby that's 25 pounds in a seat like this, because you have the weight of the seat and the child. So it is okay to transition out of this early if you want to. Just make sure that you're going to a convertible seat where you can still rear face.
Okay.
And then, since you're not lugging that seat anywhere, it's stationary, you'll want to max out that rear facing position. And so, again, all seats are kind of different. So some of them go up to 40 pounds. Some of them I've seen go up to 55, 60 pounds. So it just depends on the seat that you have. But before you turn them around rear facing, just try to use it as long as possible, at least until they're 2.
Okay.
But if you can, max out that weight range. They are safest when they're rear facing. So As long as they're within that weight or that height parameter, they can stay rear facing for many, many years.
Okay.
And then you can turn them around forward facing, and then just pay attention because your convertible seats are going to have two different parameters. It's going to have that rear facing weight and height, and it's going to have forward facing weight and height. So just make sure you're looking at the right one for whichever stage you're in. And then I say max out that forward facing height and weight. Once they max that out, then you can try a booster. But they'll be, upwards of 6, 7, depending on their stature, before they're, even considering a booster. Okay. And then they have to be in the back seat until they're 13. Once they reach 13, then they can move to the front seat, and that's just Alabama law. But they need to be in a booster, which we're talking many years from now, but they need to be in a booster until they can fit the seatbelt correctly. There's typically like 5 steps to a booster, graduating from it, and so their legs have to be able to go over the edge of the seat, like with their knees. The seatbelt has to go down the middle of their shoulder and their chest. That lap part of the seatbelt needs to be on the lap and not the belly. And then they have to be mature enough, to stay buckled and that type of thing. So lots of different steps to remember, but I'm here if you ever have any questions. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So that's like the logistics of the harness and stuff. And then, like I said, this strap right here is how you'll pull to tighten. What I didn't show you is there's a little metal lever right here that when you push down on it, and it's kind of facing that way, so it tilts down like this, you'll press down on that. And I usually tell people to leave their harness snapped together when you're loosening it and pull by that chest clip. And that just prevents from you tugging from one more so than the other, because then occasionally they kind of get off-centered, and then you have to finagle it and try to get it back right, because when you go to tighten it, it's going to tighten one side but not the other. So I say pull by the chest clip, that way you're pulling them evenly. And so you'll tighten and loosen each time you get baby in and out. Okay. Was talking about the levels here. You got multiple different ones, and so when to know to move up to your next slot is when baby's shoulder reaches that next slot. So you always want, for a rear facing seat like this, you always want the harness to be right at their shoulders or going below their shoulders. If their shoulders reach like right here, that's still too soon. They need to be right at or even just above that strap or that slot before you move them up. So to move them up, it's very simple. But you're going to flip the seat over, and you've got this little metal piece right here. This is what we call a splitter plate. So you've got 2 hooks, and then you've got your harness. And so when you're tightening it, this is what's, pulling in and out. This is right here. So you're just going to pull your loop off. Feed it, you can reach around and pull it through, and then push it through the next slot that you need. Just make sure that you're pushing it through the shell and the fabric part of the correct hole, because I've seen where people feed it through the correct fabric but not the correct shell hole. So just make sure you're feeding it through both correctly, and then you're just going to pull it back through and then hook it back. So while your baby is still kind of small, maybe this next slot you can still use it. Otherwise, as they get bigger, you're going to want to use this loop at the end, because that gives you a little bit more slack. Okay. But as a newborn, we're going to put it on this inner one, and when you hook it, biggest thing to remember is just to make sure that you see both ends of the hook here. Okay, because that way you know it's on. But this is what's holding your child in place. So you really want to make sure that that's on properly. And I usually always give it a tug from the front just to double check. Okay. Alright, your other thing is you've got this carry handle. So you push these two in at the same time to move it. And I usually just kind of grab this part to move it back and forth. But you want to make sure that it's in a locked position anytime you're carrying them, and then also when you're in the vehicle. Graco actually does not care which position you put the carry handle in when you're riding. A lot of people choose to just leave it up so you don't have to mess with it, but as the baby gets older you might want to put it down so it's not, either way. But either way, straight up and down when you're carrying them, especially as a newborn, because it puts them at that right recline angle that they need to help breathe. The other thing I like to share with people that they don't realize is that you can put this carry handle all the way back, and it acts as a stabilizer. So you can put it on the ground, and then it doesn't rock back and forth, and it doesn't go anywhere. You can also put it in the shopping cart like this. So you're going to put it in the biggest part of your shopping cart whenever you're going grocery shopping, and then put this down. That way, as your buggy's moving, your car seat's not moving. So you never want to put the car seat up top, like where the bigger kids sit, where their legs can stick there. Never put the car seat up there. I see people doing that, but car seat's not meant for that, and it can topple off very easily. The other thing to remember is that whenever your baby is in the car seat, make sure they are buckled. So whether they're, in the shopping cart with you going grocery shopping, or if you're at a restaurant eating, if they're in the seat, they need to be buckled, especially as an infant. Now, as they get a little bit older, it's not as imperative, but as an infant, like a fresh brand newborn, they have a hard time breathing because they get slumped down into these weird positions. But if you keep them buckled, it keeps them where they're supposed to be, and so it allows them to breathe easy. So just always keep them buckled. As they start to get older, 3-4 months plus, that's when it starts to become not as imperative, because they can start holding their head up at that point. But until then, always keep them buckled. So when you're bringing the groceries home, you can take them in the car seat, put this down, put them on the floor, leave them buckled, and then go get your groceries, and they'll be completely safe.
Okay.
And then when you're done, then you can come get them out. Let's see. We talked about not covering them up. 1 layer of clothing. There's all kinds of stuff I can talk about. Let me check my list. Projectiles, I didn't mention that. So y'all don't have anything like attached to the car seat or attached to the seat or anything other than this, but this is okay. Graco allows seat protectors. But just keep in mind that anything that's loose in the car, even your cell phone, can become a projectile. So even something that's really lightweight, that's 5 pounds, if you're going 60 mile an hour in that crash, 5 times 60 is the amount of force that's hitting you or your child. So just keep in mind that whenever you have your baby in here, try to make sure that you have loose objects either tucked away or don't have any in here. And then with that being said, that's why they don't recommend putting stuff like on the headrest or on the car seat or anything like that can fly off and hit your baby. If you want to put some toys on like the handle, I've seen multiple people do that. It is okay as long as you're making sure that each toy that is on here is just like material. There's no plastic pieces, rattles, or anything like that in it. That way, if it does come off and hit them, it's not going to hurt them.
Okay. What about that? Where's the box set, Bubba, that was in there? We have a little camera or something like that. Would this be okay?
So, technically speaking, they don't want us to recommend anything because of the projectile issue, because the camera still can become a projectile.
Yes.
So, we don't recommend it, but we're not going to tell you you can't have it.
Okay.
So, kind of leave the decision up to you guys.
Okay.
Lots of people use the cameras and lots of people use the mirrors. Just know that, if they come loose, they can do the same thing as anything else. What other questions do you have for me?
You said 1 layer of clothing. Are you talking about the cover, or are you talking
on the baby? 1 layer of clothing on them, and then a harness, and then you can cover them with whatever.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Any other questions about this before I show you how to install it? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna set this right here. Okay. So it is fairly simple to install. I do ask though, excuse me, which method that you guys prefer. That way, if you have to change this, to a different vehicle or a different spot, and I'm not around, it's something that you're familiar with or is easy for you. So do you guys prefer the lower anchors or the seatbelt method, or does it matter?
I've done the seatbelt method before.
Okay.
But can I see you do the other one?
Yeah,
so I know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I don't know either. Whatever's considered easier.
Well, maybe she can show us both. So
I can absolutely show you both. And they're equally as safe. as long as it's done correctly. So
Okay.
it's really just preference. Now, some seats I do prefer to do certain ways, and it's
Okay.
just because of the ease of installation and stuff.
Yeah.
But usually the infant seats are no problem either way. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are somewhere near level. Do you have one on this side? Yeah, you do. Okay, so this red line is actually going to be your level for the specific seat. Okay. The easiest way I found to do it, because I have bad eyes, they want you to eyeball and make sure that it's level with the ground. Where did my level go? Sorry, I moved all my apps around and now I can't find anything.
No, I understand. I
I'm
completely
like, why did I do
understand.
that to myself? Here we go. Okay, so I get the little measure tool on my iPhone, and it's got a level on it too. And so I just line the bottom of my phone up with that red line and do it that way. So we are about -6 of. Alright, so we need to come up probably to number 2 or 3. So you just want to get like a general levelness, because once you do install it, you are going to push down on it a little bit. So I'm probably going to overcompensate slightly, just because the amount of force that we're going to use to kind of get it secure is going to push it back down a little bit. So, and if you ever put this in another vehicle, you may be on a totally different number, because it all depends on the slope of your seats. So I'm gonna stick with 4 first, and we'll look and see where we're at. Yeah, that's probably where we're gonna be. But all I did was push this, and then it changes, or it pulls this little foot out, so you can change it accordingly. So we're gonna start at 4 and then see what happens. So your lower anchors, every seat that has lower anchors is going to have this little emblem on it, and that's what that means. It's for a car seat. Some of them poke out, some of them don't. So yours are right here. If you want to feel, I don't know, there's just this little bar right here that's about yay big. So your lower anchor is going to go on top of it and hook. Don't hook it like this. Always make sure that the hook is going like this. There are many different types of hooks. And then you just check it, make sure it's on there good, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then as you're doing that, also make sure that your webbing is not twisted or anything like that. And then the thing that gets a lot of people when it comes to tightening is they pull up like this on this little strap here. But if you will go the opposite way and kind of pull back towards you to where these two are kind of level with each other, you're going to get a lot more slack out of it that way, okay? And then what you're going to do is make sure the base is kind of pushed all the way into the seat, and then you're going to push down, and as you're pushing down, you're going to pull this to tighten. I push down on a couple of different areas, but you want to push it mainly right around in here. And then you check it to see if you've got it tight. And what you're looking for is less than an inch of movement back and forth. I prefer no movement. I can't always get it that way, but you can have up to that inch. Okay. And I'm like really tugging on it, but really it's about the amount of force you would use to like shut a vehicle door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So you've got no movement. So your next step is to go back and check your level. We are at 0. So 4 was the right number for your car. So it is completely level now. And I usually just tuck this back through here just so that it doesn't get in the way of the car seat at all. But that's it.
Oh.
Thank you.
You want me to show you how to do the seatbelt?
Yeah. How do you, or where does the seatbelt go?
So the seatbelt, and you don't do both, by the way, I'm just doing it to show you, but
Yes.
your seatbelt's going to go up through here and back down and then buckle.
And then you have to lock that?
You do.
Okay.
So you just want to make sure you get all your slack out. It's not twisted anywhere. And then to lock it, you pull your seatbelt all the way out. And then once it's all the way out, you're going to hear that little
Yes.
clicking noise. That means it's locked. So anytime you try to pull it, it's locked.
Gotcha.
And then you're going to do the same thing. So I usually grab right in here. Same thing, push down, pull, pull, pull. As you're pulling, you're taking out your slack and getting it up.
Gotcha.
Sometimes with the seat belts, what I find is it makes the seat tilted a little bit.
Yeah.
And so,
That method seems more secure.
I was going to say, I can get it tight. It's just sometimes I can't get it to not tilt. And so I usually start with the lower anchors first. And if that's easy, that's usually what I go with. But again, it's personal preference on top of car seat and on top of vehicle seat. So it kind of all just depends on what combination I got going.
I appreciate it.
But
Thank
you're-
you.
Absolutely. Your lower anchors are nice and easy. So